Thanks, Anita and Sally. So, the sum of the angles in a pentagon is 540 degrees, which means it can't have more than 3 right angles.
Kath summarised the learning and then moved on directly to setting homework. She timed this carefully so that it was not rushed at the end of the lesson and all pupils had time to understand what was needed. Her homework instructions were clear and expressed in a light-hearted way.
Homework will be to use what we've done to answer some of those questions. It's on a worksheet.
By having the homework task on a sheet ready to distribute, Kath made the most of the learning time and ensured that all pupils had an accurate note of the task. Amy and David distributed the homework efficiently. Mike asked Kath when the homework should be handed in, and she clarified the deadline.
Yes, please, Monday, everyone.
Even at the end of the lesson, pupils were still raising their hands to ask questions. When Peter started to put on his coat in readiness for a swift exit, Kath redirected him with an effective look of disapproval, followed quickly with,
"Thank you, Peter."
As he settled back into his seat.
What were we working on?
Kath reviewed behaviour in the lesson with pupils. Kirsty reminded her of the class's behaviour for learning target.
On a scale of...
She asked Kirsty to rate the class's performance on a numerical scale.
7.
Kath uses a reward system based on class points to promote the behaviour skills that pupils are learning, and Victoria had kept a tally of class points.
That's what I've got.
This served as a helpful check against Kath's own record and indicated that the class remained motivated by the system. Kath moved swiftly into the dismissal routine, included Billy's early departure with Mrs. Latimer to avoid congestion in the corridor. Kath gave him some personal feedback as he left.
Well done, Billy. You've worked really well today.
As the bell went, Kath held the pupils for a few seconds to ensure a calm exit. She scanned the room as the class tidied up quietly and efficiently. When Peter attempted to jump the gun again, Kath redirected him using his name and a gesture. She ensured an orderly exit by dismissing pupils in small groups and used this opportunity to engage a number of pupils in personal conversation. Kath commented on the positives in the lesson. For example, she offered some personal time for Sally.
I'll be in my room at lunchtime if you need a chat. Okay, Kirsty?
Kath capitalised on Jason's strength in maths by suggesting that he might help Kirsty catch up on work she'd missed. Jason and Kirsty both seemed happy with this arrangement. She praised Mike for putting his hand up.
Thanks, miss.
See you next time.
See you.
As the last pupils left the room, Kath was in deep conversation with Jason, reviewing the targets on his report card. It looked as though she was pleased with him.
Yes, Mike.
Can we hand it in next week, miss?
Oh, good point. Yes, please, Monday.
Structured endings to lessons can have a significant impact on pupils' behaviour outside the classroom. A calm dismissal means that our frequently overcrowded corridors don't become too hectic. There has been some debate lately about whether to stop using the bell to signal lesson endings. In the end, we decided to keep it. Unfortunately, dismissal practice across the school varies. We need to work together to develop a more consistent approach. Staff have been discussing various ways to improve lesson endings and are trying out different ideas. We will discuss and evaluate them after half-term. Heads of department have this issue on the departmental meeting agenda this term, and the school council is conducting a survey to find out if pupils feel that the corridors are safer
Tidy
now.
up and show me that you're ready to go.
I was pleased to see that Mrs. Latimer and Kath have thought about end-of-lesson routines for Billy.
Well done, Billy. You've worked really well today.
He is learning how to respond to teacher feedback and said thank you in response to Kath's comment. The strategy where Billy leaves a few minutes early has worked wonders. Previously, getting between lessons has been a real stumbling block to his successful inclusion. Unfortunately, Mrs. Latimer is still finding that some members of staff are reluctant to implement it as they feel it will be disruptive. Kath will be able to support Mrs. Latimer by demonstrating that it can work well. Sometimes teachers can take less responsibility for pupils who receive intense support from teaching assistants. But Kath understands that teaching Billy remains her responsibility. It is important for Billy and the class that the teacher and the teaching assistant enable him to play as full a role as possible in the lesson, learning alongside his peers. Kath dismissed the class gradually, group by group, and positioned herself so that she could interact with individual pupils as they left. She used this time to build relationships and to provide feedback and support. If necessary, Kath will take this opportunity to rebuild any relationships that may have been tested during the lesson. Kath offered some private time for Sally. Our school has good pastoral support systems in which all staff play an active role. Included is a range of additional support. For example, we have learning mentors and peer support to help pupils like Sally. These small interactions at the end of the lesson, especially if they are applied consistently across the school, have a powerful influence on pupils' attitudes, not only to the teacher they are leaving, but also as they arrive at their next lesson. Jason is on report. We know that, by themselves, report cards will not necessarily bring about change behaviour. It is the quality of the interaction and discussion between staff and pupil that helps pupils learn new behaviours or improve their attendance. Some teachers prefer to use opportunities during the lesson to discuss the report, so that pupils on report can be dismissed with the rest of the class, maintain a low profile, and arrive in good time for their next lesson.
Which leads us on to everyone's favourite bit. Homework.
Because Kath linked homework to the learning in the lesson and allowed time for a thorough explanation, pupils will be more likely to be able to complete their tasks successfully. Homework then becomes a productive learning experience. Clear deadlines are also important, as some pupils are still learning how to organise themselves.
Yes, Mike.
Can we hand it in next week, miss?
Oh, good point. Yes, please. Monday, everyone.
As well as reviewing the maths objectives, Kath planned time to review the way pupils' behaviour had affected their learning.
OK, our behaviour. What were we working on? Yes, Kirsty?
We were working quietly together, miss.
OK.
At the end of a busy lesson, this can often be forgotten or squeezed out, which is unfortunate, as it can be an extremely effective way of engaging pupils in monitoring their own behaviour, especially if it focuses on where pupils have been successful. Kath uses a class reward system. When she developed this with 8PT, she made sure they fully understood the specific link between their behaviour and the points earned. She never takes points away. She knows that it is important that any rewards pupils receive are meaningful, and so she negotiates these with the group.
On a scale of 0 to 10, how do you think you did?
7. 8.
For all of you, I'd say a 7 or 8 is about right. If you can keep that up, I'm happy.
She used a scaling question to help pupils measure progress.
I'm really pleased.
To help them make useful judgments, Kath has discussed carefully with the class what is meant by working quietly, and they have agreed what both 0 and 10 represent on the scale. Involving pupils in self-review can be a powerful and effective tool for encouraging them to take responsibility for their own behaviour. Kath's use of questioning and the solution-focused scale, rather than just giving her own judgment, gives pupils like Kirsty, for whom this behaviour objective is particularly relevant, an opportunity to reflect on the behaviours they are trying to develop. Kath is mindful of how her reward system links to the wider school merit system. The head has asked me to explore ways in which class reward systems like Kath's could be developed across the school. He feels that there are some classes where this sort of idea might help to shift some entrenched behaviours and help improve attendance.